Hey everyone, and welcome to SciCast. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Castia. We're the NPCs.
Glad to have you with us. As always, the brain behind the operation, doing all the research for today, is Guy.
Yep. And fingers crossed all the tech is behaving itself today. You know how it is.
Always an adventure.
Yep.
So how was your weekend? Get into any good games? Or maybe watch something cool?
Oh, yeah. I actually sank a ton of time into that new open world RPG that just dropped. Graphics are insane. And I caught some of the Valorant Champions Tour qualifiers online. Pretty intense matches. How about you?
Sounds awesome. For me, it was more of a retro kick. Fired up Final Fantasy Tactics again on an emulator.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, really scratched that strategic itch. Also watched this great documentary about the early days of computer animation. Kind of fascinating seeing where it all started.
Nice. It's cool how different our weekends sound sometimes.
It is. And actually, speaking of digging into game systems and finding more content, that ties in perfectly with what we're talking about today.
Right. We're looking at the Creature Creator and the Fiend Arena systems from Final Fantasy X too.
Exactly. Stuff that massively expanded the game, especially for people who got the HD Remaster.
Totally. Because these weren't in the original PS2 release outside of Japan, right? They came from the international version.
Correct. Final Fantasy X-2 International plus Last Mission. So for a lot of us, the HD Remaster was the first time seeing this whole extra layer.
And it's a huge layer. We're talking potentially hundreds of hours of extra gameplay. It turned 10-2 into something much bigger.
It really did. It's often described as this sophisticated monster-raising metagame.
Yeah, like Pokemon or maybe Dragon Quest monsters, but with that distinct Final Fantasy X-2 flavor baked in. It fits surprisingly well into the existing mission structure.
Definitely. So who actually designed this whole thing? Obviously, you've got the big names like Nomura on character design.
Tetsuya Nomura, yeah.
Yeah.
His style is all over 10 and 10-2. That very distinct aesthetic, trying to tie the designs into the story.
And Tetsuya Tsukamoto, he did some iconic monsters in 10, like Tonberry and Cactuar.
He did. And he worked on 10-2 as well, doing alternate costumes. Apparently designing those cute outfits was like way harder for him than designing monsters. Kind of funny.
Huh. But for this specific system, the Creature Creator,
Hmm.
who was the main driver?
The research points to Takatsugu Nakazawa. He was the battle planning director and specifically the Creature Create director for that international version. Seems like he really championed this feature.
Working with a broader team, of course. Motomo Toriyama as director, Yoshinori Kitase as producer. The usual Square Enix heavy hitters from that era.
Right. It was clearly a significant addition they decided to build for that updated release.
Okay, so let's get into it. How do you actually, create creatures? Or capture them, I guess.
It all starts with trap pods. You get these pods, and you set them in different locations across Spyra.
And there are different types.
Yeah, 4 main ones. Small, medium, large, S, M, L. They look yellow, green, and blue. They generally catch creatures of that corresponding size. Then there's the SP pod, the special one. It's like purple or pinkish. That's the key one. It can catch any size creature, but more importantly, it's how you capture specific species or even human characters.
Wait, hang on. Human characters? You can trap NPCs?
You absolutely can. Quite a few of the named NPCs from the various factions in Spyra can be captured using SP pods. It's wild.
That changes everything. So how many can you manage?
You're limited. You can only hold 8 trap pods total at any time, and you can only have 8 captured creatures in your active roster.
So you got to be strategic about what you're hunting for.
Exactly. Once you placed your pods in an area, you do a roundup, and the game tells you what, if anything, you caught. And their starting level usually scales based on YRP's average level.
Yuna, Riku, and Pain. Okay, so what happens after you catch them? How do you make them useful?
Well, they level up just by fighting alongside the girls, earning EXP like normal party members. But the really unique part is their development path. Most fiends have something called a fiend tale.
Fiend tale, like a story.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little narrative unique to that creature type. As they level up, you unlock chapters of their story.
Oh, that's cool.
It is. And once you complete all the chapters by getting them to the required level, you can choose to release the fiend.
Release them, so you lose them.
Sort of, but not really. Releasing them completes their story, adds them permanently to the bestiary, so you can read their tale anytime. And it usually gives you rewards items, maybe more trap pods. Plus, you can potentially recapture them later if you want.
Ah, okay, so it's like graduating them. It gives collecting a purpose beyond just stats.
Totally. And some fiends don't have fiend tails. They have faith fragments instead.
Faith fragments.
Yeah.
Like from FF X.
Kind of related. Releasing these specific fiends again, after leveling them, unlocks classic Final Fantasy Aeons like Ifrit, Shiva, Bahamut for you to use as special allies in the Fiend Arena.
Whoa, okay. That's a big reward. How about customizing their abilities? Can you teach them stuff?
Yes, in a few ways. You can feed them items or accessories. Like, feeding a creature a potion might teach it the cure spell permanently. Okay. They also get abilities, auto abilities, and stat boosts from dress spheres and garment grids you equip on them. But unlike YRP, they can't swap dress spheres mid-battle. It's more like static equipment for them.
Gotcha.
And sometimes they can learn abilities just by getting hit by certain attacks in combat. Natural learning.
Is there a limit? Can they just learn everything?
No, there's a cap. They can have a maximum of 4 active command abilities and 4 auto abilities learned through items or leveling. Abilities they only get from their equipped dress sphere or grid don't count towards this limit, but those go away if you change their gear.
So you have to choose carefully what you teach them permanently. Add some strategy.
Definitely. And how they fit in the party is different too, based on size.
Right, you mentioned sizes. How does that work in battle?
Your party has 3 slots still. Small creatures, S, take up 1 slot, medium, take 2 slots, and large creatures, L, take up all 3 slots by themselves.
Ah, so you could have 3 smalls, or 1 medium and 1 small.
Or just 1 powerhouse large creature. It really impacts your team building.
Okay, that's fascinating. So you've captured them, leveled them, told their stories, taught them skills. Where do you show them off?
That would be the Fiend Arena. You access it through Shinra, back on the airship, the Celsius. It's basically a coliseum just for your creature teams.
Like the Monster Arena in FFX, but maybe more focused.
Yeah, and structured differently. It's set up as a series of tournaments, or cups. And unlike FFX, where you often fought single monsters, here the battles are often one-on-one between your creature and an opponent, though some cups have multiple enemies.
So you climb the ranks through these cups.
Pretty much. You start with Standard Cup, then Standard Hard, Grand Cup, Grand Hard. Winning those unlocks tougher, more specialized tournaments like the Chocobo Cup or the Kakshur Cup. You usually have to beat teams featuring those creatures first to unlock their specific cup.
Makes sense.
Then you get into the late game stuff. The Youth League tournament, the Aeon Cup, which requires unlocking those Aeons we mentioned via Faith Fragments, the Fiend World Cup.
And the really big ones, the super boss level stuff.
Right, the Almighty Shinra Cup and the Farplane Cup. Those are the ultimate challenges.
And you mentioned needing to complete a Fiend Tale for one of those.
Yep. For the Almighty Shinra Cup, you specifically need to capture and complete the Fiend Tale for Omega Weapon, one of the classic super bosses.
Wow. That's a serious requirement. Can you refight teams if you need to grind or get drops?
Absolutely. There's a battle simulator option. Once you've faced a team in a tournament, you can fight them again anytime in the simulator. Super useful for EXP, items, whatever you need.
And the rewards for winning these cups must be worth it.
Oh, yeah. They get really good rare items, powerful accessories. Even some of the best dress spheres in the game, like Mascot, Psychic, and Festivalist, can be won through the arena. Like the Youth League Cup is another way to get the Mascot dress sphere, which is amazing.
Okay, now the tricky part, you don't directly control these creatures in battle, right? It's all AI.
Mostly, yeah. It runs on the same ATB system as the main game, but your creature allies make their own decisions. The designers wanted them to feel effective without you needing to micromanage every single action.
So how do you influence them? Is there any control?
There is through the star system. It's pretty unique. On the PlayStation controller, you use the L3 or R3 buttons to change their star rating from 0 up to 5 stars.
And that changes their behavior.
Exactly. Think of it like setting their general combat strategy. 5 stars means go all out offensive, really aggressive.
Okay.
3 stars is the default, kind of balanced. They'll attack, defend, use suppress skills. 1 star makes them more defensive, focusing on healing or buffing.
And so stars.
That puts them in maximum defense mode, taking much less damage. Sometimes they might even try to flee the battle at 0 stars.
Huh. So you have this sort of general guidance layer. That's clever. Does the AI actually improve or learn?
The idea is that they do. They're supposed to learn over time, get better at picking the right abilities for the situation. You set up their potential toolkit before battle, their dress sphere, grid, accessories, learned abilities, but the AI decides the when and how during the fight.
This sounds like it could lead to some inconsistent results.
And that's exactly what you hear from players. The opinions are all over the place. Some people found the AI genuinely brilliant, making smart moves they wouldn't have expected.
Like others.
Others found it incredibly frustrating. Ridiculously stupid was one quote. Making bad choices like spamming an attack against an enemy that's immune to it, or not healing when it's obviously needed.
Yeah, I can see that being annoying. It's that trade-off, isn't it? Less control makes battles maybe more dynamic, unpredictable.
But also potentially maddening if your AI partner isn't cooperating.
Right. So stepping away from the mechanics for a second, the main characters themselves, Yuna, Riku, Pain, they've shown up elsewhere, haven't they? They remained pretty popular.
Oh, definitely. They popped up in Kingdom Hearts II, remember? As little pixie versions.
Oh, yeah. With Maleficent, right. Weird but cool.
Yep. And they were in crossover games like Itadaki Street Special, World of Final Fantasy. Tons of stuff.
Theatrhythm, the rhythm games, they were definitely in those.
Big time. Theatrhythm, Final Fantasy, Curtain Call, the new one, Baralai. They often had multiple versions of Yuna, reflecting her different roles in 10 and 10-2, like Yuna the Summoner and Yuna #2 the Gunner Songstress.
A nice touch. And Dissidia Opera Omnia, too, the mobile game. They really got around.
They did. Shows how much those characters resonated with fans.
Okay, let's get into some of the fun trivia and details about specific creatures or systems. There are some real icons you can capture.
You gotta start with Tonberry, right? Instantly recognizable. The little robe, the lantern, the knife, chef's kiss.
Doink. That knife attack. Terrifying. Where do they first show up? FF5.
FF5, yeah. The design inspiration is apparently from Japanese yokai, like unsettled spirits. And yeah, capturable in 10-2, they have their own fiend tail. Someone even thought the FFFV version looked like Yoda.
Huh. Okay, what about Cactuar? Everyone loves Cactuar.
Another absolute classic, designed by Tsukamoto. The running pose, the needles, supposedly based on old Japanese Hanawa clay figures and maybe the manji symbol.
Appeared first in FF6, I think.
FF6, yep. Famous for being super evasive and hitting you with 1,000 needles. Also capturable. Also have a fiend tail. Just gotta catch him first.
Then there's the Iron Giant, a recurring big dude.
Yeah, first seen in FF8, I believe. In 10-2, it's a tough L-sized fiend you can capture, pretty imposing. The notes we looked at even mentioned a possible connection to the movie The Iron Giant.
Interesting. And the really big guns, the super bosses you can capture.
Ultima Weapon and Omega Weapon, legendary names in Final Fantasy. Here, they're incredibly powerful L-sized fiends. And like we said, finishing Omega Weapon's fiend tail is the key to unlocking the almighty Shinra Cup.
Which brings us to Shinra himself. The little owl-behead tech kid on the airship becomes that strong.
It's maybe the biggest surprise in the whole system. He turns into Almighty Shinra, one of the hardest super bosses in the entire Fiend Arena. You actually have to beat him as a boss first, and then you can capture him. Such a cool twist for a supporting character.
That's amazing. And you mentioned capturing other humans earlier. Any notable restrictions there?
You can get a lot of them with SP pods, key members from New Yavon, the Youth League, other major NPCs. The main thing is they don't have fiend tails like the monsters. They just get added to the bestiary when you catch them, keeping any abilities you might teach them later.
Is anyone from the original FFX main party off limits? Like, can you capture Tidus or Lulu?
Well, Tidus isn't really there to capture in the same way, but the material specifically calls out Wakka as the only main party member from FFX who can't be captured in 10-2's system. Everyone else from the FFX playable cast who appears in 10-2 is potentially fair game if you have the right SP pod and luck.
Gotcha. Any other super tough fiends worth mentioning?
Oh, plenty. Truma, the final boss of the optional Via Infinito dungeon, becomes a repeatable super boss fight in the arena. There's Major Numerous, another massive challenge deep in the Via Infinito.
What about Angramenu? That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's the big multi-part boss out in the Beacon Alt Desert. The name comes from Zoroastrianism, like an evil spirit concept. Not capturable itself, but its components might be, or maybe just a tough fight. Then there's Chalaka, way down in the Via Infinito, apparently named after a Mayan deity. Notoriously difficult to beat and capture.
Sounds intense. Any interesting behind-the-scenes tidbits or development quirks?
A couple of fun ones. Pain's trainer dress fair has that bird companion, right? Apparently it was originally going to be a snake or maybe a falcon, but animating a snake coiling around her proved too tricky.
Can't blame him there.
And a classic Final Fantasy Easter egg. Biggs and Wedge, the recurring guard duo, make a cameo appearance in the opening movie.
Always gotta have Biggs and Wedge. What about Schween's story changing?
Yeah, there was a note that Shun's motivation was initially meant to be more directly antagonistic towards Tidus, but they shifted it to make him more driven by his own pain and sorrow, more selfish, as the note put it. This apparently helped strengthen the thematic link between him and Tidus.
Interesting. And okay, that weird strategic point about YRP's levels.
This one's wild, because captured creatures start at a level based on Yuna, Riku, and Pain's average level. If you keep the girls' levels low, it actually makes it easier to capture creatures at lower levels.
You might intentionally not level up your main characters.
Exactly. It creates this bizarre situation where grinding YRP could make catching and training certain fiends harder, especially early on. It's completely counter to how you normally play an RPG.
Yeah.
You want your main team strong, but maybe not too strong if you're focusing on Creature Create early.
That's a fantastic detail. Really shows the depth and the weird edge cases systems like this can create. All right, so wrapping things up. Overall verdict on Creature Creator and Fiend Arena, were they good additions?
Overwhelmingly positive, based on everything we've seen, especially considering they were basically brand new content for most of the world with the HD Remaster. They added so much to the game.
Yeah, it wasn't just a small side quest. It was a massive injection of depth, customization, and sheer playtime. Really boosted the game's longevity.
For sure. It appealed to different kinds of players, too. The collectors, the strategists wanting to optimize teams, people who just wanted more story through the Fiend tales.
Even with the potential downsides, like the time sink, it can be a grind, no doubt, and the sometimes, let's say, unpredictable AI.
Right, those are valid criticisms you hear. The AI could definitely be a source of frustration.
But despite that, the overall package that got a catch-em-all vibe, mixed with the unique stories and the challenging arena battles, it seems like it was a huge success.
Definitely. It transformed FF X-2 for a lot of people, making it a much deeper, richer experience than its original release might have suggested.
It really poses an interesting question about game expansions, doesn't it?
It does. Like,
Yeah.
adding a system this huge, almost a game within the game, fundamentally alter what the original game was? Or is that the ideal way to keep players invested in exploring a world long after the main story is done? Something to chew on.
A perfect thought to end on. Well, that covers our look at Spyra's hidden creature sanctuaries in Final Fantasy X-2. Thanks so much for tuning into SciCast.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Remember, you're awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. Stay safe, stay sane,